Thank you so much for joining. This is really excited to have this conversation because actually this is the topic of how I got into acupuncture. So my name's Kim. I'm the founder of Aura, and Gabriel, my partner and our director of acupuncture, is with us, and he can introduce himself, and we can really talk about kind of how both my personal relationship with acupuncture started and my relationship with Gabriel in the acupuncture world started as well. So excited to get into it.
So I'm Gabriel Sher. I'm the head of acupuncture, and it's actually one of the reasons I got actually into acupuncture also is stomach and spleen disorders. So I trained in San Francisco and California, and then I moved in to China for a couple of years, and I was there, and then I moved to New York, and I started doing acupuncture in New York, and I've been doing it for 20 years now. And one of the things that I've always focused on is stomach and spleen digestion, and so that's why I kind of came into contact with Kim. Kim was my patient for many, many years, and that's how we kind of got to know each other as patient practitioner.
Yeah, and so I just also want to say, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll get to them, because I'm sure you have some things on top of mind. But yeah, so
don't be shy, because this is all we talk about in general. All I talk about is bowels. So like, I always laugh when like my patients come in and they're like embarrassed to tell me about it, and I'm like, this is all I talk about. So
yeah, there's no TMI here. This is a safe space to literally talk shit. So we're excited. It's funny because as Aura was opening and I was kind of sharing how I got into acupuncture with many people, I didn't realize how much I was going to be telling my put my shit out there, but here it is. So I really found Gabriel and found acupuncture because I have chronic constipation and really bad bloating, and was so uncomfortable and frustrated with not feeling good, even though I was trying so many different things, going to Western doctors, doing tons of different tests, and nothing was really helping. So someone recommended acupuncture to me, and I honestly had no idea really about acupuncture, what to expect. And luckily he referred me to Gabriel, and I kind of went truly out of desperation, but not knowing anything. And when I got there, I, obviously told Gabriel, as you said, asked all about your bowel movements, and became a very weekly conversation of ours as I was going in for weekly treatments, but finally really starting to feel a lot better. And it was the first thing that has helped me, and I was trying to get better for a lot of years. And I was just so impressed with how much both I really enjoyed the treatment, but also felt better really was able to kind of help with my constipation. It's not making me feel so bloated. I feel like I always, in all my limbs, I was bloating. I couldn't go out for a night out was like the death of me. And now, I'm much more able to balance things out. So it's been a great experience, but I also feel like so many more people probably have shitty situations. So no, you can't hear anyone laughing, but I'm going to pretend you guys, we're all enjoying the bad pun. But, we're having such discomfort from not feeling good. And whether you're trying a different diet or raw food or not raw food or whatnot, acupuncture has always been something that has helped me. So I think that it's a great topic, and excited to sort of have this conversation. So one of the questions, just off the topic, Gabriel, you were saying you focus a lot on stomach and spleen. I think, spleen is a really big term in Chinese medicine, but what do you really mean by that?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking about your days when you were like single and you were like bloated and didn't want to go out for it. Those are like the whole days.
I was like, I have a date. I don't want to go. I feel fat.
Feel fat and bloated. I don't know. When I was in school, so there's two different theories in Chinese medicine. There's people that think that the root of all your problems comes from your digestion. And then there's some people that think that the root of all your problems comes from what we call the kidneys, or kind of your essence. So there's going to be like way too much information, but the kidneys are kind of like your bones, your structure, your libido, all these kind of essential things. But your digestion is like what you put in yourself. So like your food intake, and I've talked about this so many times with you, but I've talked about this so many times, but people always have like a weak spot. So your weak spot was always your digestion, your stomach and your spleen in Chinese medicine. So when you're stressed or anxious, or when you're worried about going to school and all those kind of things, it goes to your stomach. So it always attacks the weakest spot. So in Chinese medicine, your stomach deals with all your digestive stuff, and your spleen does the same thing. So much of it is kind of balancing this out and kind of strengthening the digestion. And that's through acupuncture and herbs. The acupuncture I've always found is like fantastic. When people would come in for like, one treatment, I can get the bloating down, which was always like such a relief for everybody, because especially my females, my guys don't usually notice when they're bloated. They're just like, I feel fat. But like girls notice so much of bloating because it deals with so much of their cycles or things like that. But the acupuncture is fantastic for the bloating, and that's something that you'll see immediately. And then the herbs and the acupuncture help just kind of get things moving and circulating. This is all called stagnation in the stomach when you're having constipation. So you're just trying to open that up and break up the stagnation.
I mean, with bloating, it really is kind of, it was going in.
Like letting a balloon out. Like it's,
truly, it's like you deflate there. And I feel like it's such a hidden fact, because so many people are looking for like that quick treatment to de-bloat, and acupuncture has really helped. But it's not just right when you walk out, but you really feel the de-bloating effects for days after, which I also like very much appreciate.
Just think of this: you have your intestines that are way too long, but they run all kind of like below your rib cage, and there's something called peristalsis, which is like on you, it's very weak. It's the actual muscle of the intestine that just pushes the bowels through. And when you have chronic constipation, or a lot of patients, when they come in, they have these things, and their peristalsis is just so slow. And so what the acupuncture does is it stimulates the peristalsis, so it actually gets the muscles. Like when you take like a medication that makes you poop, like it just forces the bowels through, which weakens those muscles. And that's the really bad way of attacking it, which everybody who has constipation has done, because it's like, it's like a last resort. Like I just feel so bloated and I haven't pooped in 3 weeks or a week or 5 days, and you feel horrible, which I can't imagine, but that's another issue. But my thinking is that when you do acupuncture, it gets the muscles to actually do that on its own. So it's a huge thing, instead of forcing medication-wise, forcing something that pushes the bowels through. It weakens those muscles, and it's a huge problem.
I know. When I've traveled and been far away from you, Gabriel, I've sometimes been desperate, and I'm like, should I do it? Should I take that Miralax? And I'm like, no, Gabriel would be so mad. I've been working so hard on like training my muscles. Like I can't.
Yeah, but I gave you a travel formula.
Yes, actually that's been great. So with the herbs, I have a stronger formula that I travel with that is good, because I don't know if I don't think it's just me, because I know my friends in similar position where when you travel between the airplane, different schedule, like new bathroom, new routine, like not working out for me.
I remember you used to have such bathroom issues.
Yes. It's not fun. Gabriel and I laugh that like my stomach is like so mean and hates me. But actually, to that point, so when you were saying like when people have emotional, whether it be anxiety or overthinking, things that I definitely do experience, that my stomach is kind of where those emotions are targeted.
Right. And that's just you. So somebody who has a really bad tight neck and shoulders, or a lower back, or jaw issues, something like that, it always, like under stress, or when you don't take care of yourself, or like during these last how many months we've been in, like it's going to go somewhere, and that's just how the body works. So I always think it's really cool, just because you see how the body reacts to that stress. I mean, it's not cool for you, but it's cool for the practitioner, because you see how it completely goes from here to here, or here to the shoulders. So yeah.
So would you say emotions, like what is the role of emotions on a digestive system?
Oh, well, I mean, there's this one concept of like, it's called liver overacting on the stomach and spleen. So it's straight out like, I don't know. I mean, it's like when you're about to take an exam and somebody like gets diarrhea, that's like, that's the classic example of it. Or if, I just know that like right when my wife told me she was going into birth, like my stomach started to hurt and I was like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Like that's just how it works. So, that's kind of like one of those things. So emotions are a huge, huge factor in digestion. I mean, it's huge. So, yeah.
So with that, like how does stress impact all of this?
Well, stress affects the body. So stress affects in different ways. So you have more constipation issues, and most of my patients actually do have more constipation issues, but it's going to go straight to the body and affect the digestion directly. So when I'm treating somebody like you, or I'm treating other patients who deal with digestive issues, I'm treating not only the emotional part of it, but I'm also treating the digestion. So as an acupuncturist, you can't just treat the symptoms. So I can't just treat your digestion and try to speed up your digestion and kind of kick up that peristalsis. I also have to treat the emotional part and kind of calm your spirit down and relax your system. I mean, Chinese medicine, we've talked about this so many times, but Chinese medicine is all about like a highway system and opening up the highways and getting everything moving. And like your constipation is a perfect example, but like stress and anxiety all kind of relate to that. So you're trying to just get things kind of flowing and moving. And it's just so essential. And acupuncture is fantastic at it.
I think that's actually like, and I saw this from the first session I had with you, but one of the biggest things from seeing kind of a Western doctor, and for the record, I'm type 1 diabetic, and I see my endocrinologist, take insulin, and very much believe that Eastern medicine and acupuncture is a great complement to Western medicine. It's not a substitute. But when it came to really treating my digestive problems, I was very frustrated because I was taking a pill that was exactly for the symptom. It was like a constipation pill, but it was like, why? No one was asking me why was I constipated. And so I think that your treatment, the first time I came, when you really my stomach definitely gets worse when I'm in high stress, hyper anxiety. I'm not sleeping great. I'm not in a great routine of exercise, diet. It obviously gets all the worse, and no one was really addressing that. And I think, the first session, I was anxious about, I don't know what it was that day, whether it was a date or my job at the time or applying to business school. But I felt like the session really got to all of it versus not just straight like, oh, you're constipated. It was a bigger holistic treatment.
Yeah, when you come into Aura for the first time, you're going to go through like a full intake. And so you go through everything. So you're going to find out, what's essential for an acupuncturist that they don't ask so many times when you go to a Western doctor is, you're going to go through diet, you're going to go through exercise, you're going to go through all these different things, libido, you're going to go through a full history so you get an idea of what's going on with that patient. So it's not just about the acupuncture, it's the herbs, it's like a person like you, like, are you exercising? How's your diet? How's your drinking level? Are you drinking enough fluids? Are you drinking too much alcohol? The great thing about acupuncture and Chinese medicine in general is that and at Aura, we really try to get to know the patient and understand like what's going on with them and how their body's actually running in every aspect. It's not just the constipation, because that's just like a classic symptom. It's another thing is I always like, skin disorders, because you see like on the surface, you see like what's going on with that person. So if they have rashes or eczema, but it's really telling you internally what's going on with that person. So it's really great with digestion to see how it comes out and just really kind of going through the full history and going through everything with that patient to understand. So somebody like you, not only am I treating you for the acupuncture and the herbs, but I really want to work on your diet, and I really want to make sure you're drinking enough fluids, and I really want to make sure you're getting regular sleep, because those all are huge aspects of digestion.
Right. So one of the things with diet you always say is like raw foods, big salads. As much as I love sweet green, for instance, are like the death of me. They like get so bloated they don't pass through my system.
So Chinese medicine always thinks, and at Aura we try to push as much as we can, but Chinese medicine always thinks that things that are cooked are easier to digest. So if you walk outside and it's freezing cold, your body tightens up. But when you walk outside and it's warm, your body relaxes. So the concept is that when you eat too many raw foods like lettuce and cucumbers and all these things that are in season, and I want people to eat stuff that are in season, and I want them to eat their salads and things like that because they're fantastic right now. I just was, you go to the farmer's market and everything's amazing. But eating things that are cooked are just much easier for the stomach, and they lead to, it's just less of a shock to the system, so they're easier to break down. And somebody like you who suffers from more of the bloating and the gas and the constipation, then it's really great to have food that is already cooked and already broken down. It just digests so much easier. And that's a huge thing in Chinese medicine. One thing that's really easy to do during the winter, because things, it's very common to eat more like warm stews and things that are cooked, and stir fries and things that are kind of broken down, and warm soups, because those are so great. But the raw foods are, they just don't feel as right during the winter. The problem is now they feel kind of right because it's hot and you want something very light. But kind of leaning towards more cooked things and vegetables is really key.
Right. Yeah. You'd be proud of me, actually. During quarantine, because I was home, I was able to cook lunch a lot more. So I made so many good stir fries.
I feel like most people were doing so much more of that stuff, like not eating out as much and not eating as much, oils and sugars and butters and all these things. So yeah, really trying to focus on like eating really healthy and eating clean foods, and that things that are easier to digest are great.
Totally. And so this might be detailed but what do your bowels really tell you about your overall health? So you were saying skin issues are very easy, or, you enjoy because you kind of can really see things on the surface. But, when you asked me very, TMI, but like, what do your bowels look like? What does that kind of all really tell you about your digestion and your health?
Yeah, we get a lot of IBS patients. So we get a lot of patients that go from back and forth. So they might get diarrhea, they might get constipation. I'm not so curious about in Chinese medicine, we look at, I don't ask those specific questions. Maybe I should, but if the bowel floats, if it sinks, if it's thin, if it's all those kind of things, there's an analysis for all those. I don't know if we need to go into that. But if your bowels
take a picture of your bowel and just send it to Gabriel, email us.
I'll give you the analysis of it. But no, but a lot of bowels with constipation are very hard. I always call them goat poops, those little nothing poops that come out that are hard and dry. And that just means that the peristalsis is going super, super slow. And usually, as you know, when I'm done with my treatment, I do that whole massage thing where I try to decrease the bloating and decrease the gas and just kind of move the bowels through, which I think is really important with digestion, because I'm doing a lot of points. I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but there's a group of 4 points on your stomach that are great. And if you find the belly button, I don't know if you can see me, you probably can't.
We can.
Yeah, I'll do it. So if you find the belly button, there's 4 points that surround the belly button. There's stomach 25, which is, it's about 2 finger breaths out from the belly button. And then there's Ren 6 and Ren 12, which are above and below. Okay? And they're called the 4 doors, and they kind of get everything moving and they get circulating. So when I do that massage, I always start on I have to visualize treating somebody, bottom left, and then I go up and around to kind of get the peristalsis going and moving. So it's a lot of, we were talking about acupressure and so many things that you can do at home. So pressing on those points, and we'll have those on Instagram and things like that. I think we already have posted them, but those are great 4 points for just kind of decreasing the bloating and getting everything moving. So it's Ren 6, Ren 12, and stomach 25. And those are great just to kind of get everything circulating. They're also the go-to points for bloating and kind of decreasing that. Then there's a couple really good points on the legs of stomach 36, which I know we did on Instagram recently. Amy did it. And then spleen 9 more for looser stools. But those are really great points for digestion that are kind of go-to ones. I always use on you.
Yes. And I'd say, and it is actually really helpful, because one of the things that you do at the end of the treatment is kind of using pressure along those points to really move the stagnation. So I think definitely check out our Instagram and our YouTube, because you'll really get more tutorials on what you can do at home around those pressure points to really help break things up. It's kind of I think of it, you might not, Gabriel, but like a colon massage to really move things.
No, it's good. So what I was thinking is the acupuncture decreases the bloating and kind of gets it going. And then when you do that massage, it kind of breaks up. It's called borborygmus, but it's intestinal noises. I know we can hear it moving in the gas. Not that we want to talk about your gas, but it's you can hear the gas going through the intestine. So it's really great to kind of move all the gas through and kind of move the bowels through. It's kind of like a traffic jam, and are trying to break open the traffic jam and get everything going again.
Yeah, I'd say like without fail, every time Gabriel does it to me, I'm like, so what do you feel?
Yeah.
How is it? How bad? It's like, give me the report card. So beyond those points, what are some other ways we can improve digestion from home?
I think those great things. I know we have the tea that's really good. That's for digestion.
Best digest. It's so warming and soothing.
Yeah, so those are two I like a lot, which you can pick up at Aura. And I think the best things you can do are kind of like, I know we're doing a lot of that stuff, but going through the acupressure points, I think making sure that you're eating really, really well and having a consultation just to go over diet and make sure that you're eating the right things. Exercise is huge. It's something that I screamed at you about during the quarantine was like, make sure you're moving. And I know it's been hard for so many people, especially in New York, that don't have a lot of space. But like, I know like every morning I have a cup of green tea and I do yoga in the morning, and that just gets everything kind of moving in my system. And it's a great way to kind of move the bowels and get everything kind of going. And it's really important. I think those are like the three big things is at home is, if you're stuck at home, is acupressure, I think exercise and diet. I think those are the three things. And kind of, like your problem is always going to be your problem. Like these people who come in and they think that, you can get rid of their constipation in one treatment or two treatments and they don't. This is like, Kim, this is like your thing. So it's something you're always going to have to work on and always kind of balance. Chinese medicine thinks about this concept that like, it's all a seesaw and you always want to stay in balance. And there's so many things that throw it off. COVID is like the best example of it ever. But like we were all in this routine and then something happened and it completely threw us off the routine. So our bodies is like that. So we always have to kind of take care of ourselves and kind of always balance out the emotions. And this is a really, really stressful time. And people are, don't know what to do with themselves emotionally. Every patient I have, it's, I ask them how they're doing and we all start laughing because nobody's doing well. Like well's not the answer. It's like on a scale like of how bad you are. So it's a matter of kind of keeping your system balanced and it's kind of keeping you healthy and feeling well and doing everything you possibly can. So somebody like you who deals with constipation, you just have to do everything you possibly can during this time.
Right. And so, right, with that said, with routine, so I feel like everyone was on one routine, then it was quickly pulled back with thrown off with, not being able to leave. And now things are changing again. And so like, I know, people are drinking more. It's the summer, rosé, drinking, or they're eating out because they're now able to. So that definitely, as you mentioned, throws off digestion. So how would you recommend bouncing back from, eating or drinking too much, or whether it be like that big party weekend that knocks you out on Monday?
It's all the same things that I've always told you. It's all about balance. So if you're going to go out, which we all should, and we should enjoy ourselves, and it's summer, and we need to all have fun and do fun things. I mean, I think that's so essential. But it's all about, like if you're going to drink too much, then you spend 2 or 3 days kind of taking care of yourself. So you make sure you're eating enough healthy food and you're drinking enough fluids and doing all the right things to kind of balance out whatever Saturday night you did, or eating out and you're starting to eat. But I think we all learn to cook so much more and we learn to eat a little healthier. And that's something that we kind of can take forward and kind of appreciate. And how, I think this time really slowed us all down a little bit and made us appreciate the simple things. It was like, you told me you were eating with your family for 40 something nights in a row. Like,
no, it's like 80 some by the end.
It would drive everyone insane. Right. But like in a good way, like, you appreciated food instead of shoving food in your face like we all do, and we have 8 minutes to eat lunch. So at this time we had, 7 hours to eat our meals. So it was, taking these things that we didn't take for granted before that we can now appreciate is really important, I think. So.
Yeah. I will say too, what I find great with acupuncture, which is that, I am obviously love it and committed to the practice of it, but it is a practice. So I find that, I feel my best when I go weekly. And especially when I first came to you, you were like, you have to kind of commit to come weekly and then, can reevaluate and take it back. And what I like is that I feel like I kind of put in that work and the practice and that foundation so that I, if things come up and I can't get in weekly, I still feel okay. Like my body doesn't hate me, as I say, or I could go on that big night out or the bachelorette or something and not like my body's not in a full flare up where I'm so bloated. I'm so constipated for like 10 days. Maybe it's like a day or two to recover, but that recovery period really is a lot better.
I always push people, and I never try to be forceful with it, but like going to Aura, like coming in once a week is just such a great thing, because also you kind of can rebalance and you can kind of get your system better, but it's also about like going through all the symptoms, going through how you feel and kind of rebalancing it and making everybody like, I just think it's so essential. Like if you go too long without having acupuncture, your body's just thrown off. So it's really nice to be consistent. And I know with all my patients who come in regularly, how much better they feel and how much stronger they feel, and how like with immunity things with COVID, how much stronger they are and how their digestion's running really well or they're sleeping better. I think it's just essential to kind of put that into your schedule that once a week I'm going to do acupuncture, and that's just kind of part of how I am and how I'm going to stay healthy.
I personally find like it's the type of thing that, I'm trying to exercise, I'm trying to eat well, sleep well, but acupuncture is kind of like the missing piece with all the other healthy practices I'm doing to really connect all of those dots. So it's definitely, great. And even though I also love like the treatment, you're always treating my chronic stomach issues, it kind of meets me where I am that week or that day. So like if it's where I am in my cycle or super stressed with work or getting a cold or things like that it kind of also treat in that time.
Yeah. As much as we always think we're doing really well, I love when patients come in and they're like, I'm doing so well. And then I like look at their tongue and I'm like, you're a disaster. Like, look at all the stress you have. And they're like, oh yeah, I do have a lot of stress. And like, you go through all these things. I always think it's so funny. Like we all think we're doing okay at different stages, but there's always something going on that can be worked on. That's like a huge thing. And kind of like working with, since we were just talking about digestion, is like always doing, there's one point, Ren 6, that I went over, which is the greatest centering point too. So it just kind of balances out the system. So it's a good point, even if somebody doesn't have like true digestive issues.
And so you just mentioned your tongue. What does that tell you about your health? You answered, I know what you're going to say, but I want you to answer.
Sorry. I always tell the same story. So when I used to date, I would check out the girl's tongue because it would tell
Sure, I know.
Yeah. So it tells me if they're stressed out. It tells me if they're anxious. It tells me if they're overthinker, if they can't sleep. So the tongue is broken into like 4 or 5 main ideas. So the outside of the tongue tells me all about emotions. Okay. So the tip of the tongue is more heart. It's more like overthinking, in your head too much, anxiety, trouble sleeping. The outside of your tongue is the classic like frustrated, angry, irritable. It's like what they think every New Yorker is, but it's so not true. Most New Yorkers are actually anxious. But so I call that a horseshoe tongue because not usually, you're usually one or the other. So you're more heart or you're more liver. Some people have both, which is what I call horseshoe tongue, where their whole outside of their tongue is all red. So this one person came in yesterday and I was laughing because they were like, I'm doing totally good. And then I looked at their tongue and it had red all the way around. So it was like anxiety, overthinking, and stress. The middle of your tongue, which is what we're kind of talking about today, is more like stomach and spleen. It's more the digestive organs. You can also have these things called scallops, which are teeth marks on the outside of your tongue. And that will tell me if you're more prone to just weaker digestion. So it could be anything from having diarrhea to eating way too many fruits and vegetables to drinking too much. And then the coating of the tongue tells me if there's like a thicker coating. There's this concept in Chinese medicine of dampness. It's kind of fun to do. If you drink too much and the morning when you wake up and you have a bowel movement and it smells really gross or diarrhea or whatever it is, look at your tongue because it's going to usually have this like thick, damp, gross coating on it. And it's like the classic damp heat. So it's something, it tells you everything about the person. So
you probably look at it and you're like, I'm never going to drink again. And then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course. But it's all about like, getting your tongue. The tongue always tells me kind of how, I always say the pulse tells me how you're doing the last day or two, and the tongue tells me how you're doing this over this whole week. So it's really like a great way to diagnose somebody. It's one of my favorite tools.
So you can't get away with anything. You can't say,
they should be able to catch everything. So it's really great. Yeah. And I always tell people when they come in to like Aura and they've had acupuncture before, but they've never had their tongue looked at. I'm like, it's essential with acupuncture to have your tongue and your pulse felt, because that's just what acupuncture is all about.
Right. Yeah, I know people are always confused when you have to stick out your tongue,
Yeah.
but there is a meaning, a big one to it.
Poops and sticking out your tongue, people are like really hesitant about it. I'm like, that's all I do is talk about poops and sticking out your tongue. So yeah, go ahead.
So does the audience or does anyone have any other questions? Anything that they're struggling with? You can type into the chat, or you can type to us in particular, just the panelists. Oh, here's a question. So why does traveling impact your stomach, and how do you keep your gut healthy while traveling?
Yeah, I think those are like two things. I think the body rhythm is thrown off. I think you're not on a regular schedule. You're not eating your regular foods. I think that's a huge thing. I think people get in these routines like, we sleep from a certain time to a certain time. We have bowel movements at a certain time, and a certain time we eat these foods when we're at our home. When we're thrown to a different, on traveling, we're eating different foods, we're sleeping different, we have different stresses. So I think that's a huge part of it. That's why I always gave you like a formula just in case. So when you were traveling and your bowels weren't moving, but I think it has a lot to do with that per se. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I do find that so much of it, like your routine around, even if it's for you, your green tea or yoga.
Right.
For me, as much as I try to change it, I do like to start my morning with coffee. And how is that different, and everything definitely changes.
Yeah. No, I think bodies, and I know this from my children, I think bodies in general, humans in general, work really well in a routine. And if you get into that routine, meaning you go to bed at say 10:30 every night and you wake up at 7 or whatever, and you have your regular routine, I think the body really does well with that. And when you throw it off, it really takes a while to kind of readjust to it. And change is always good, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think the body runs better. I know, like, I don't know, my kids are like so crazy, but I think when they go to sleep at a certain time and they wake up at a certain time and they eat their meals at a certain time, they run well and they run better than, if you throw them off and then they're like crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I find too, like, even I feel like I can get away with being off my routine, and then it catches up to me and it's like, no, enough.
And then you're reminded, I need to start getting back on my routine. I need to go back to regular acupuncture, all the things that kind of keep your system.
Yeah, exactly.
Fortunately, I know you too well. Yes.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, we also have virtual sessions and are seeing people in space in NoHo. So you can come in for your digestive system or any other issues you might be dealing with, or schedule a virtual session where you can chat with an acupuncturist. They can look at your tongue virtually, and you can go through some recommendations that would be great for you and how you're feeling now, which is, even just things like food and walking are things you can do at home that you can really make a big difference, which is what I found as a good patient as I am.
Yes.
Gabriel knows he gets texts from me being like, I'm not feeling well. What do I do?
What do I do?
And it's like, well, if no one else has any other questions, definitely, if things come up, feel free to reach out to us, Instagram, DM us, or schedule a virtual session, or come see us in person. So thank you so much for tuning in. Gabriel, thank you for talking to me about shit for more. I can chat more and more. So always learn new things. But thank you, everyone.